Preparations are underway for a royal visit. The King and the Queen are expected to come to Australia this year. Now, this is despite the King's health battles.
A royal editor at the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers, has been following the story for us live in East Essex this morning. Russell, nice to have you on. This visit was thrown in doubt, but our PM has welcomed the trip. Is it going to happen?
Well, Belinda, I wish I had a crystal ball in front of me, but, let's take the good news first. I mean, this is good news that Anthony Albanese said today that there are plans in place for a bit of a bidding war between the territories and states of Australia. And who wouldn't want to have the King and Queen come? It's going to certainly be a big affair for both of our countries. And I think, considering King Charles and the rest of the royal family have had a pretty bad time of it over recent weeks and months, this is some good news to be savoured because, his cancer treatment, we don't know how long that's going to go on for, but plans are in place both for the Australian government and for Buckingham Palace. So fingers crossed it should happen, and I reckon about October.
And with the Commonwealth really needing some, solid work from the royals to keep solidifying it here, obviously Australia's one of them. States and territories are going to be itching to have him visit. Do we know where he might go first and what he might do?
Well, I'm not sure, really. I mean, you would imagine we'll come to Sydney. I'm saying we because I would hope to be on the trip as well. But, I'm keeping everything crossed, trust me. And obviously, I think we'd come to Sydney. We'd go over to Western Australia. A trip to Dubbo as well would be fantastic. I was over there in 2018 with Harry and Meghan when there was a big drought and then the heavens opened when we all turned up. So I think, that when you go over to the rural communities as well, that's as big as posing outside the Sydney Opera House and stuff. And I reckon the King will want to get over and sort of show his appreciation for all Aussies, as well as going to Samoa for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in October as well.
All right.
Well, we'll be just as excited to have you here, Russ, as the King. But Queen Camilla, she has been stepping up to cover the King's duties. But there are reports this morning that she's exhausted. Is it true? And she's heading off for a holiday.
Well, you know what? Why wouldn't she be? I mean, she's 76 years old, and fair play to Camilla. She's been sort of front and centre, the very much leading lady of the royal family, the senior royal in charge of the pack, if you will, because we've got no Princess of Wales. We've had the Prince of Wales as well, sort of taking a leave of absence over the last few weeks. So Camilla has gone to a sort of wellness retreat, I'm told. She's taking a bit of sort of rest and recuperation for a week, but she will be back leading the royal family on March the 11th, and that's next Monday for the Commonwealth Day service at Westminster Abbey. So listen, the King is sort of out of action at the moment. Camilla getting a bit of R&R, but very much back in service in a few days.
And with Kate out until April, they've got very few people on deck to help them out.
Might have to call in Harry.
Yeah, exactly. Russ, good to see you. Take care.
Well, hold the phone. An Aussie royal tour is back on the cards with the PM to kickstart discussions with states and territories this week. It comes after the King's shock cancer diagnosis, of course.
To discuss this, we're joined by Associate Editor of the Telegraph, Camilla Tominey.
Hey, Camilla.
Good to see you, Camilla. How likely is a royal visit of this nature to go ahead?
Well, I mean, I don't like to plan something that isn't going to go ahead. I do appreciate that it's probably quite surprising to be thinking of him having been recently diagnosed with cancer. He's currently undergoing treatment for the palace and indeed the Australian authorities to be planning this trip for the autumn. Having said that, it is the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. And as monarch, he's expected to, and head of Commonwealth, may I add, he's expected to attend. It had always been on the cards that he would go to Australia and New Zealand and some of those Pacific territories. I think that was obviously in abeyance following the shock diagnosis that was announced last month. But at the same time, of course, the King and Queen need to travel around the Commonwealth. They need to meet and greet Australians as well as people from other nations. So I think it's a positive sign, isn't it, that they're wanting to plan this, and indeed that your Prime Minister is laying the groundwork for it to happen. I think it will be a case of, fingers crossed that it does.
These things, of course, are expensive and very detailed in the planning. You've been on several tours around the world, including to Australia. Feels like yesterday, Camilla. I guess there's a certain risk in planning and making a financial commitment to it.
Yeah, fond memories of you and me at Uluru, Carl, all those years ago. No, indeed. I mean, a lot of planning goes into it, but what else can they do? I think they have to put their best foot forward. They've obviously had to cancel the spring tour arrangements, not just the King and Queen, may I add, but also William and Kate. They haven't gone on a tour since they went to the Caribbean a couple of years ago. So look, they need to be out traveling the world, being seen to be believed. But I think we also need to bear in mind he's having this cancer treatment and he's 75 years old. By the time he visits Australia, he'll be 76. He'll become the first monarch to do so since 2011. Clearly, there's a need to get out there. I know he was there as Prince of Wales in 2018, but the last time the late Queen went was 2011, so more than a decade ago. So it's significant that he goes, but I would imagine that there must also be contingency plans in place. I mean, of course, we're hoping the cancer treatment is successful. It isn't too grueling. It doesn't leave him too exhausted. Buckingham Palace haven't given a running commentary on how long that might go on for. We wish him the very best and hope, of course, he's in fine fettle to come and see you guys in the autumn. But I'd also imagine that behind the scenes, you know, there may be a plan B too.
Would that plan B potentially include Prince William and Kate if she's feeling well by then?
Well, why wouldn't they step up to the plate, Sarah? I think it would be great for them to visit Australia, not least because you'll remember the Caribbean tour didn't go down as well as they had wanted it to. And we know, I remember from seeing Carl on that trip, and also when they brought Prince George back in the day, I remember visiting the Sydney Zoo and going on all of those engagements. You know, it did seem as if George acted as a bit of a kind of Republican dragon slayer.
Yeah, that's right.
That's true.
They'll run to recreate that, won't they? So if not the King and Queen, then I would imagine that, yeah, you'd have to see William and Kate bringing up the rear there.
Do you think he'll want to get to multiple places as well? I mean, there's all sorts of fighting going on that started this morning between the states and trying to lure him. Do you think he's a blues fest guy or maybe a more of a botanic garden kind of fella?
Well, who knows, Carl? I mean, we always associate this sort of iconic image of royals outside the Sydney Opera House, but I'm sure the other states and territories will disagree with that analysis. He won't just have to, by the way, cover the miles in Australia. While he's there, he will probably have to take in New Zealand and, as I say, some of those Pacific territories. I do feel a bit sorry for the Queen, though. You know, guys, she doesn't really like long-haul flying. She's afraid of flying. She's married the wrong man, hasn't she?
She sure has.
Well, first-class flight isn't
exactly.
what it used to be
That's not so bad anymore. But Camilla, just while we've got you, do we have an update on how Kate is doing?
Well, there's been lots of conspiracy theories flying around the internet. Lots of different journalists have been recording videos saying, where is Kate? She's recuperating. She's at their home, Adelaide Cottage in Windsor. We've seen William out and about a little bit. But while she recuperates and indeed sort of concentrates on immediate family matters, we won't be seeing her, I think, until after Easter.
That's a haul, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but, you know, this is major surgery. Don't forget she was in that London clinic for 13 nights. So she hasn't had something insignificant. Again, Buckingham Palace refusing to tell us exactly what it is. But clearly it's requiring a major recovery. And also, I think the sign of how serious it was William saying, even in the aftermath of his father's cancer diagnosis, I've got to concentrate on Kate. So we very much got the message from Kensington Palace. William isn't going to suddenly change what he was planning to do for his wife. He's there as her right-hand man, really. And yes, he understands that his father needs him, but his first priority is his wife, which is probably the right approach to take, may I add.
Yes, and I will second that, Camilla.
Hey, you enjoy your Sunday night. You go out raging, all right?
OK, I'll hit the disco now.
The disco.
You have Carl's permission.
The disco. Gotta love her.